Hey everyone. So this week and next, I'm taking a much needed break from the podcast to recharge and take some time off. It's crazy to think that I've been recording this weekly show every week since the first episode over 3 years ago. So this week and next, I'm releasing 2 best of episodes that I've pulled from our back catalog of past shows. This week is episode 74 of our monthly show, where I interview Rachel Tobac, CEO of SocialProof Security. Rachel took second place 2 years in a row in the Def Con Hacking Conference's Social Engineering Capture the Flag contest and is widely regarded as an expert in social engineering. During our discussion, we talk about social engineering, getting more women involved in cybersecurity, and of course, Rachel's favorite David Lynch movies. This is one of our most popular interviews over the years, so it's one you definitely don't want to miss. So without further ado, here's my interview with Rachel Tobac.
Hello and welcome to the Shared Security Podcast, episode 74 for March 25th, 2018. I'm Scott Wright, the Streetwise Security Coach, here with Tom Eston and our special guest, Rachel Tobac. So I'm going to turn things over to Tom and Rachel. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good. And sounds like you're doing fine up in Canada.
Yeah, I'm starting to thaw out a bit. Yep.
That's good. That's good. Spring is here, though, right?
Spring is here. Yes. And welcome to the show, Rachel.
I'm so excited to be here.
So Rachel, she's the CEO and co-founder of SocialProof Security, where she helps people and companies keep their data safe by training them on social engineering risks. Rachel also placed second place 2 years in a row at the Def Con Hacking Conference's Social Engineering Capture the Flag contest. In her remaining spare time, Rachel works as the chair of the board for the nonprofit Women in Security and Privacy, where she empowers women to lead the converging fields. After she gets to inbox zero, she watches David Lynch movies with her husband named Evan and pup named Snugs. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are the first people to really read out the fact that I watch David Lynch movies from my bio.
Yes, and in fact, I'm curious to know what your favorite David Lynch movie is and why.
Yes, well, I feel like this one probably would not be hotly contested. I would say Mulholland Drive. And I also really like Fire Walk With Me, which most people hate, but I'm such a big Twin Peaks fan that I still really like it. And I think it helps bring the story all together. I just like it. I don't know. Yeah.
So he's kind of got like just an interesting, I don't know, the way that he makes his movies are always, I wouldn't say controversial, but just a very unique type of style to his movies, would you say?
Yeah. I would definitely say he has unique style. It's probably the zaniest, weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I would say the worst David Lynch movie, that one's pretty easy to pin down. That would be Dune.
Oh,
Have you guys
yeah.
seen that?
Yeah, back in that was like the 1980s that came out, right?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, that's
It's
a bad one.
unwatchable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Scott? Any David Lynch movies come to mind?
We don't get David Lynch up here. You know, it's in Canada.
You
I
guys
do
get
recognize, I
David
do remember
Lynch
Twin Peaks, but no, I'm not a big cinema. I mean, not a big cinema critique or fan. I mean, I like silly stuff with happy endings and stuff like that. So I'm pretty boring that way.
Yeah, if you like silly stuff with happy endings, that's like the antithesis of David Lynch.
Yeah.
He is like scary stuff with the most depressing endings in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it reminds me of, I wouldn't say my favorite, but what comes to mind is Blue Velvet. But mainly for Dennis Hopper, because I think that was like his craziest role. So.
Yes. It's just, such a good movie. Love that one. I was going to say Blue Velvet, but that's what everybody says. So I had to say Mulholland Drive. I watched that after my junior prom in high school.
Oh, seriously?
So that gives you an idea of how weird of a kid I was.
Wow. Okay. All right. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was you were involved in the Def Con Social Engineering Ctf at the Def Con Hacking Conference, and you placed second place 2 years in a row. Could you give our listeners just an overview of what that contest is and maybe just a little bit about Def Con and the conference?
Yeah, of course. So DEF CON is the largest, I believe it's the largest hacker conference in the world. Yeah. I think it's about 20,000 people who attend every year, and it grows every single year. It's in Vegas. It happens in Vegas every year. And it's every single type of person goes. So that you have your hackers, you have your black hats, your white hats, people who work for the government who try to remain nameless while they're there. But pretty much all types of hackers or infosec or privacy professionals converge on Vegas sometime in July or August. And there's a bunch of different types of events that you can do. There's little lockpick villages. There's recon village. They call them villages. They're basically just different types of activities that you can do while you're there. And one village that I'm a big part of is called the Social Engineering Village. And the Def Con Social Engineering Capture the Flag is basically a competition where they put you inside of a glass booth in front of an audience of 400 to 500 people. And all of those people watch you call a target company over the phone, and they broadcast that phone call out into the audience, and you're trying to get specific pieces of information from that company. They're called flags. So different flags are worth different point values, with the most sensitive information being the highest point value. And then the most malicious thing you could do on that call is have them go to a fake URL to demonstrate getting access to their network, and that's 26 points.
Oh, wow. So people don't actually get exploited, so to speak, when you're doing the contest, right? There's obviously some rules and rules of engagement around what you can and can't do.
Yes, there are many things that are out of scope during this. Everything's pretty much a simulation. So you're doing the call, you're getting pieces of information. So that's not a simulation, because you're getting things like what types of software do they use, what versions of that software, so on and so forth. But when you actually get them to go to a link over the phone, it's just the social-engineer.org website. So you're demonstrating that you would gain access or get a presence on the network, but you're not actually getting a presence on the network.
Right. Got it. Yeah, we had Mr. Chris Hadnaghi on the show last year. He was awesome guest. So
he is amazing. He's one of the most important people in my life.
Yeah.
It's like my mentor. Yes.
He is. He's a good guy. That's awesome. So what's it like, I guess, sitting in that glass booth in front of all those people? And you obviously had a time limit, right? That you had to complete the contest?
Yeah, the first year I think it was 25 minutes, and last year it was 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And what is it like inside of the booth? Absolutely nauseating. I don't eat the entire day, because I just know that's just a bad idea. It's terrifying. There's not another word to really describe it other than nauseating. You're in a booth, you can't hear the audience very well. So when they're cheering, you just kind of hear like a faint whooshing sound in your ear. When you do get people to go to the fake malicious URLs, you can hear them like screaming, and then you can hear Chris Hadnaghi shushing them, but that's about it. Yeah, it's terrifying, but it's also the most fun thing you've ever done. So if you are a risk taker and you enjoy being scared out of your mind, if you like watching David Lynch movies, you're probably going to like going in the glass booth in front of 500 people.
Very cool. So I read a story about your husband actually talked you into applying for the Def Con Ctf. So how did that all go down?
Yeah, he did. So it was like three or so years ago. I was at work at Course Hero, and I didn't even know anything about the InfoSec world other than what he did. He's a cybersecurity researcher. And he calls me from Def Con. I'm still at work, and it's like Friday at Def Con, which, as you know, if you've been to Def Con is well underway by Friday evening. And he calls me, and he's like, I just saw this thing today, and I don't really know what it is, but basically people are hacking people over the phone, and I thought it would be a really good idea for you to fly to Vegas tonight.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't understand, but I'm intrigued, and you wouldn't normally tell me to buy a flight the same day, so I'm going to trust you here. What in the world is this contest? And he's like, you know how you always call Comcast or Verizon and you get them to lower our bills every month? I was like, sure. He's like, it's kind of like that, except for you're hacking the company, and it's not really for personal gain. It's just to demonstrate. okay, let's do it. So I fly out and I get to see one call the next day on Saturday because I got there so late. I mean, DEF CON was almost done at that point. I saw one call and it was a not so successful call. It was just them hitting a lot of voicemails after voicemails. And they finally got one person on the phone and got a few flags. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I can get somebody on the phone, this is so me. I have to do it. So I applied and I ended up getting selected. Chris Maggie took a huge chance on me.
Nice. That's great. That's awesome.
How many people actually sort of apply to or sign up to do that?
I think it's like 300 to 400 a year, but I think Chris Nagy was saying that this year we had 400 in the first day or something crazy. He's going to have to fact check me on that, but he was tweeting out about how they were filling up like crazy for SC Village in the first day that the CFP opened or something.
So you can't sign up ahead of time, you just do it at the show?
No, you do sign up ahead of time. So out of the 400 or 500 or so people that apply, they whittle it down to 14 people. And then you find out that you're selected. Then 2 weeks or so before DEF CON, they give you your target company. So you have 2 weeks to do all of your OSINT, your open source intelligence gathering. And you create a full report on what you find based on who you're going to call, how you picked your targets, where you found that information publicly available, and what types of scripts you're going to use, your pretext, and all of that. And you basically have to give that all to them before you get to the booth. And then when you're in the booth, you actually execute on that phone call to see if you can get it through vishing, get the content through vishing. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's wild.
That it is. That sounds amazing. So what was the biggest challenge for you during the contest?
I think the biggest challenge is just self-teaching. I think many people in the InfoSec community have that experience where they've done a lot of self-teaching and it takes a long time, you know? So when I'm preparing for the Def Con Ctf, or SCCTF. I'm non-technical, so I could not do that, the CTF. But when I'm preparing it, I mean, it takes about 100 hours to find all the information, compile the report, pick my targets, prepare what I'm going to say, and like practice it in front of a mirror for days.
Yeah. So did you work at all with Chris Kirsch? She's the first place winner. I actually work with him at Veracode.
I love that you work with Chris Kirsch. No, I didn't even know who he was. Though the previous year, I remember he got into the booth and nobody picked up. It was just all voicemails for him. So then the next year he was ready, coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah, he certainly did. I remember him talking about it at work, and he's very passionate about it, and it's really cool that he ended up coming back and winning.
I know. His call was unreal. I mean, he just got almost every flag. And to see him get into the booth one year and not even be able to get somebody on the phone, and then the next year come back and win first place, it just goes to show you how persistent you have to be with social engineering, and then it pays off.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's cool that, just your background, and kind of like Chris's in marketing, and, you weren't even in InfoSec and you got into this. I think that, says a lot about just kind of this field and, that anybody could really do it, right?
Absolutely. Like, social engineers do not need to be technical people. You don't have to have done it for your whole life to be good at it. That just goes to show you how scary social engineering can be as a threat, that a noob or somebody who is in marketing, right, can come out of the gate swinging and get every single flag in 20 minutes and get a presence on your network, simulated. But that's crazy. You'd think you'd need to be technical to do that or have years and years and years of experience, but you don't.
So kind of flipping from the user's perspective, right? What's kind of the best advice that you can give to, just general users, just that, think of like your mom or someone that's not technical at all, or maybe not good with technology. How do they prevent themselves from being a victim of a social engineering attack?
Yeah. Well, I saw that your podcast used to be named the Social Media Security Podcast.
Yes.
Is that what you used to call it?
Yep, we did.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that's very, very relevant to what I'm about to say. Because I came into social engineering without a whole lot of background in it, and a lot of self-teaching, just reading books and blogs and listening to podcasts such as your own, I found that the easiest way for me to gain all of the open source intelligence that I was looking for was just through social media. And I'd say the biggest advice that I can give to individuals to prevent them from becoming a target of a social engineer is to not take photos in front of your workstation. That's the first thing. And also realize that anything that you post on social media, especially if you did geolocation, could be used against you. And don't let someone authenticate with that information. So I'll start with the workstation stuff. The biggest thing that I find on social media is, it's somebody's 10th anniversary at work or first anniversary at work, and they're taking a picture with all of their coworkers in front of their workstation because they want to celebrate, right?
There's a birthday cake, right?
With a birthday cake, right? But what's behind them? Their workstation. I can see every piece of software that they run. I know what type of computer they have, their PBX phone system. I see everything I need to know to pretend like I'm a vendor and give them a call, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm calling, this is such and such with Slack. We see that your Slack is down on your network. I just want to make sure that I have all the information about your computer to get it up and running again. They're like, oh, we haven't had a problem with it. And it's like, oh, we've seen that on your network. It's really slow today. Have you noticed that? It's like, oh, yeah, it was a little slow. Okay, well, are you still on the blah, 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 blah operating system and version blah, blah, blah? Yeah, I am. Okay, great. We're just confirming that stuff. It makes it so easy. And then you give us so much more information because we seem trustworthy, because we know stuff about you that you use, a Dell Latitude, right? How would I know that? It's just because I see it on your Instagram, and you've geolocation tagged it to such and such workplace. And now I can cross-reference that with every other person's computer that tags in front of their workstation.
So I have a question for you, Rachel, and Tom probably too, with respect to geolocation. Tom and I have talked about geolocation on a few different episodes. I think it seemed to me that sort of most of the images were getting stripped of that information on Twitter and things like that. But does Instagram or do other platforms now leave it by default?
Well, I'm not even talking about the geolocation information in your photos. I'm talking about people manually geolocating their photos. They tag them because they want.
I see.
Yeah, so that's not even hidden, right? It's right up there, right on your Instagram. It'll say, "Oh, I want to tag this because I work at Google and I want everyone to see how awesome it is." And and like sometimes that's great, if you're trying to highlight some awesome waterfall that you went to two weekends ago or something, but. When it comes to tagging your workplace, that just gives me such a rich amount of information that I can use and cross-reference. And you can make it so much harder for a social engineer if you didn't tag that.
Spring and summer are upon us, and that means it's time for some much-needed vacation time with friends and family. But this also means that you need to be aware of data privacy and how to protect your laptops, smartphones, and key fobs while traveling. Airports and other public areas can often be targeted by attackers looking to gain access to your devices through their wireless signals. So instead of worrying about disabling or turning off wireless functions, it's so much easier to place them in a Faraday bag when they're not being used. And if you want the best protection that you can get, you want to be using Silent Pocket's premium Faraday bag product line that blocks all wireless signals. So don't forget to get yourself a Faraday bag before you head out on your vacation. And right now, you can use discount code SharedSecurity and receive 10% off your order during checkout at silentpocket.com.
Is your team starting to show signs of fatigue from traditional security awareness compliance training, or from phishing assessments that target them for those teachable moments? As we've seen in recent news, these kinds of training are having a negative impact on corporate culture, and they're really not all that effective. So there has to be a better way. ClickArmor is the first gamified learning platform that helps build a self-defending team through engaging learning challenges and exercises. Its unique lesson templates, built with proven gamification techniques, let people learn and exercise important defensive concepts in a safe and fun environment. Whether you need to quickly deploy a training solution that gets people to stop clicking on things immediately, or you've got your own boring content that needs to be put into a more interesting user experience, ClickArmor can help. So go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity to learn how to build a self-defending team.
So it sounds like you also started a company with your husband, SocialProof Security.
Yes, that's right.
You want to talk a little bit about the business and how that's going?
I would love to. The business is going great. There's no shortage of companies who are scared of social engineers, so we get a lot of people who are interested. We do social engineering security risk assessments. So we'll give people an idea of how much information can we find on them online, how would we use that information, what targets would we choose. We also do social engineering penetration tests, and we focus mainly on phishing. So we'll give you an idea of what information we could get over the phone from your employees. When we scrub that information, when we give it back, because nobody's ever allowed to get fired from the work that we do.
Of course.
So we just let you know, here's such and such information that we found. We were able to get that at these times of day, such and such. And then we also do that. We do a hands-on personalized training so that people understand what to avoid posting online and how they can scrub that information and the steps that they should take before answering a social engineer's question. So other little types of things we do that are fun are OSINT CTFs. We do workshops. We do this crazy thing called Spot the Social Engineer, where it's not a full penetration test physically because you get us past your doors. You just assume that we could get past your doors and tailgate in, right? And then they drop a social engineer somewhere in a happy hour or an event or a meeting space, and we find how much information we can get while we're there for an hour or so.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. Are we finding unlocked machines? If we put a USB drop down, are they gone when we come back?
Are they supposed to catch you without a badge or anything like that?
Yeah, that stuff too. We'll make fake badges and see if anybody stops us. Are people following the protocol, basically?
Right.
Yeah, it's very fun.
It sounds a lot like your honey stick project, Scott, that you did with the USB.
Yeah,
drive.
I didn't want to interject personal stuff into here, but I had done some work dropping USB drives around, and that old trick, right? So people tend to not trust me anymore even when I send them emails with links in it. Now, do you have the same problem?
For me?
Yes.
I tend to not send people anything with links because I know I never open anything with a link. I try not to if I can.
Yeah, it's one of the hazards of this kind of work, right?
I know.
Obviously, you've accomplished a lot in your career, and I think you're just a great inspiration for many young women that might want to get into a career either in cybersecurity or some other technical field. And full disclosure, Scott and I have daughters ourselves. So we're curious to know just from you, how can more young women get into technology and cybersecurity careers? And I think more specifically around like high school and, girls just starting to get into college. What's kind of your take on that?
Yeah. I wish I actually knew what could be done in high school and college. I didn't know that cybersecurity existed in high school and college. And I wish that I did because I studied neuroscience and psychology and never knew that this would be relevant. But some things that I can think about for women are joining Def Con meetups and groups. I have a nonprofit that I'm the chair of the board for called Women in Security and Privacy. And we're expanding all over the US. And we have our first international expansion in Dublin.
Oh, wow. Very
so
cool.
If you're a young woman and you want to get involved in women in security and privacy, you can get mentorship and get speaking opportunities and just learn more technical skills through partnerships that we have, where we have lockpicking and different types of people come in and talk. But I would say getting involved in a DEF CON meetup would be good. Trying to find a sponsorship for different InfoSec conferences. I know through WISP we do sponsorships for conferences, but many conferences themselves will actually have sponsorships for people who are younger, maybe in high school or college. That might be a good opportunity to go and learn, network, talk. Maybe even you want to give a talk yourself, but listen to talks. I would say that would be a really good way to get involved. And I think it's not just on the people themselves, it's on the educators and, parents such as yourself. I'm sure you do this, exposing your children when they're young to different types of InfoSec, fun things like CTFs and all of that. So making it fun, maybe some hardware hacking stuff to get people excited and interested about building. I think if we can make it fun for kids and younger people, they're going to realize that it's not just that you don't just have to have a boring job when you get older. You can do something crazy like being a spy for a living.
Right. You don't have to sit behind a cubicle and,
No.
desk all day. Are you starting to see more like high schools starting to have more programs or, other types of courses around, cybersecurity or just, I guess, technology in general? Is that something that's changing?
I'm in Silicon Valley, so I would say I probably have a pretty biased viewpoint. But in Silicon Valley, we are seeing a lot more coding classes in high schools, and people are starting to want Social Proof to come in and give talks on social engineering at the high school level. So I think it's starting to become something where it's people aren't just thinking about, like, I don't know. Remember those intro coding classes? There are only like one or two available in every high school. It's not like that anymore. They're starting to expand and become more diverse, which I think is awesome. But again, I'm in Silicon Valley, so I can't speak to the Midwest or Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. How's it in Canada, Scott? Do you see anything changing from that perspective?
No, I think it's very similar. We have a lot of the same sort of influences around here. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't have anything really to add there for Canada.
Very good. So, we already talked about how you're not going to click on any links in an email. So, just shout out to our listeners. Please don't send Rachel any links. But how can our listeners best get a hold of you if they have questions or want to network with you or connect with Social Proof Security?
Yes. Everybody who knows me knows that I will talk to them on Twitter. That's my number one place. So my Twitter is at Rachel Tobac, RachelTobac. Don't send me any links in those DMs because I'm not going to read it. But if you want to chat with me, you can chat with me there. Everything's open. I'm not super private on Twitter, except for obviously things that shouldn't be so told. But it's public. It's not private. My DMs are open, so you can talk if you want to talk.
That's awesome. And then Social Proof Security, they can just you go to your website and find out more information.
Yes, on Twitter as well. So if you look at Rachel Tobac, you can find us there. It's linked in my bio for SocialProof Sec, SEC, and then SocialProofSecurity.com is another place where you could learn more information.
So Scott, do you have any burning questions for Rachel?
I was just wondering, we did talk about the David Lynch stuff, which I'm not that up to date on, but what about books? Do you have any favorite books that you'd recommend to people, Rachel?
Ooh, all of Chris Hadnagy's books. His books are amazing.
I know, I've read one of them. I had time to read. It was very good.
Yes, it's Fishing Dark Waters is really good. Unmasking the Social Engineer. And then there's one that basically taught me everything that I've ever learned about social engineering. It's The Art of Human Hacking.
Ah, yes.
That one's
a great
amazing.
Book.
Yep.
I that's the one I read. Yeah.
That one's so good. There's another one that I read. I think it's called The Art of Pretexting. It's by Talamantes. I think he works at Red Team Secure.
Okay, cool.
That one's super good. If you're really interested in the nitty gritty of social engineering and you want to become a social engineer yourself, you got to learn pretexting. That's the most important thing. So who are you pretending to be? That's where I learned how to pretext.
Thanks very much for that. And I also saw somewhere you'd mentioned Robert Cialdini's 6 Principles of Persuasion. Where does that kind of fit in?
Oh, yeah. Cialdini's Principles of Persuasion. He's amazing. You can read, I find all of his information on blogs, honestly. I haven't actually read those books. But there's also, I think there's a book called The Art of Persuasion.
Ah, yeah.
Let me do a quick Google and make sure I'm saying that right. Yeah. The Art of Persuasion. I just pulled up a bunch of Persian rugs, but yeah. Great. I found it.
Google correct, right?
Yeah, Google's correct. Always right. Yeah, that's pretty much, those are the books that I read. I don't read a whole lot of fiction, which is weird because I watch a lot of David Lynch movies, but I think it's just the nature of having a cybersecurity social engineering company where you're just reading, constantly trying to self-teach and read about the latest and greatest social engineering ploys. Twitter is also a great place to learn that stuff. If you ever, if you're a noob, if you were, to InfoSec, just follow Def Con on Twitter and the Dark Tangent, who basically started all of Def Con. And you can learn everything that you want to know about InfoSec by checking out every article that's connected there for like 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
If you have time. That's why we don't read a lot of fiction.
Exactly. I don't have any time. I'm too busy reading articles about, I don't know, Cambridge Analytica or something.
Hey, there's a Canadian involved in that,
Yes, there is.
Oh, wow.
The guy that was giving all the interviews this week. I think he was from Vancouver. Can't remember the name. One of the founders. Anyway, he came out with a lot of stuff this week. So.
Canada's Canada's finally having their moment to shine. This is what they're going to be
That's
for.
right. We take every chance we can get.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome.
Very
Thank
cool.
you so much for having me.
That's all for this week's show. Be sure to follow the Shared Security Show on Twitter and Instagram for the latest news and show updates. If you like this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.